Hey, what's happening guys? Mike from Metacomics here with another episode of Digging Deeper, a show where we take a closer look at some of the themes in comic books and how they affect our lives and culture. Today we're going to be looking at Action Comics number 42 and how it provides us with a balanced view of social activism and police brutality, topics I think are extremely important to discuss in our current political and cultural climate. Now, when talking about controversial themes and topics like this, I'm always going to strive to be objective and discuss the underlying themes and principles that exist in the narrative of the comic rather than picking a side. And it's important to note that not everyone will agree on a given issue, and it's totally okay to disagree so long as said disagreement is handled in a mature fashion. Alright, let's get started. Much of the story in Action Comics number 42 is centered around a group of people holding a protest demonstration in support of Superman, who has lost many of his powers and had his secret identity revealed to the world. It seems there's a faction in the world of law enforcement that isn't too fond of Supes now, which is part of the reason for the protest. Lee Lambert seems to be leading the demonstration and is doing her best to keep other protesters calm, while also encouraging them to continue standing boldly for their beliefs. We discover that there are police officers led by Officer Binghamton marching toward the protesters, telling them they are an unlawful assembly and they need to leave the area. As things progress, we find out Binghamton is a bad cop, attempting to goad the protesters into getting physical, justifying brutal retaliation from police, something the officers under his command seem to have a real problem with. On the other side, a man named Dante, who is passionate about standing up for what's right, is struggling to not let his emotions get the best of him and lash out violently at police. Lambert has a really super hard time during the issue, keeping him under control. Things take a serious turn for the worst after Superman arrives and Binghamton has his SWAT team beat him to a bloody pulp, and Lambert then takes a brutal hit from a baton stick, prompting Superman to lash out at Binghamton, which is exactly what the bad cop wanted. As I was reading this issue, particularly the scenes noted above, I was completely floored by how closely the imagery reflected what's been happening in America over the last year. I was even more blown away with how the writer managed to tackle this controversial subject with tact and a balanced view that seems to be sorely lacking when it comes to the topic of police brutality against protesters. Over the last year in America, racial tensions have been at an all-time high, especially between members of the African American community and law enforcement. Several times in cities across the country we've witnessed violence break out during protests, ending with altercations between demonstrators and police. This has caused many folks on both sides, regardless of color, to develop unhealthy views of the individuals on the other side of the issue, sometimes leading to extreme hostility and unhelpful stereotyping. This issue of Action Comics number 42 serves to remind us there are good people wanting to do the right thing on both sides of these protests, and things only spiral out of control when a few misguided or hateful individuals are able to stir the pot. For example, in the comic, most of the police officers, minus the wacko SWAT team members, don't want to go along with Binghamton's master plan. They want a peaceful resolution to the situation. The chaos that ensues later is all due to the evil actions of Binghamton and the SWAT guys, not the other cops themselves. Not all the police officers were bad guys, which is just as true in real life as it is in the comic. While there are definitely some rotten eggs in law enforcement, as with any profession, it doesn't seem fair to let the actions of a few define the whole. There are plenty of great, upstanding men and women who go out in our communities every day, not only to prevent crime and protect citizens, but also to seek opportunities to affect real change in the world and make our towns and cities better places to live. It's crucial that while fighting against injustice in the world, we don't allow ourselves to become the very thing we fight against, else we risk losing the cause. Those bad cops out there certainly need to be in a different line of work, and the ones who step out of line deserve to be prosecuted for it, but don't allow a few negative experiences or what you see in the news make you hate them. This principle isn't just for those who protest and how they interact with law enforcement, but also for how cops interact with demonstrators as well. Individuals who are out on the line, standing up for what they believe in, are just normal people with normal lives who work jobs, have families, and so on. Like Lee Lambert in the comic, who did all she could to hold this demonstration the right way. Not every person protesting is a violent looter. While there are times when certain more forceful measures may be needed to keep things from spiraling out of control, it's important that these not be abused and all individuals during a protest be lumped together. Abuse and violence isn't something that should be tolerated by either side, as it only causes more hate and division. It creates more unnecessary violence and heartache. Protesting is a critical part of airing grievances and helping to bring about positive social change, so long as it's done legally, tactfully, and controlled. This not only helps keep the peace, it strengthens the cause and gives it even greater legitimacy. When both police and those protesting whatever cause they hold dear respect one another and do things the right way, so much more gets accomplished. Be bold, stand up against injustice. It's okay to be angry at the wrongs taking place in society, but don't let that anger consume you. It's possible to allow anger to motivate you without being the driving force behind who you are and what you do. Again, this principle is for individuals on both sides of the issue, whether police officers or demonstrators. What I hope you take away from this discussion is to remember not to allow your experiences or things you might see in the news involving individuals cause you to make broad sweeping generalizations about whole groups of people, whether that's a race, ethnicity, or a profession like police officers. It's important to fight against injustice, but do battle wisely so as to not end up becoming the very thing you're fighting against. That's going to do it for this episode of Digging Deeper. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please like the video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more awesome comic book related content.